Fight fans, buckle up. Matt Brown just called out Ronda Rousey for acting like a fucking sore loser by lashing out at fans and taking shots at Joe Rogan years after her career ended. Rousey remains one of the most recognized and accomplished fighters in UFC history, but she hasn't exactly endeared herself to the masses since her final fight back in 2016. Most recently, the former UFC Women's Bantamweight champion lashed out at fans and media for allegedly abandoning fighters and turning on them after losing. Rousey's complaint was that MMA fans aren't ride or die with their favorite athletes, and instead only offer criticism after a loss, which she boiled down to the opinion that "you ain't shit, you never were shit." While those reactions certainly happen in MMA, UFC legend Matt Brown disagrees that the legends of the sport aren't revered by fans, and perhaps Rousey is just speaking from her own rocky reception after retirement. Speaking on the Fighter Versus, the writer, Brown acknowledged that Rousey has the mentality of a champion and puts the chip on her shoulder herself with so much pent-up anger that she doesn't have a hard time going to that dark place. That's why she's such a competitor, and it's great for competitiveness, but she's not competing anymore. At some point, Brown said, "We'd like to see her go meditate or do a DMT trip or a yoga retreat or something. Just relax. People don't hate you." Brown emphasized that fans want to love her so bad, and while he's personally indifferent, he thinks most MMA media are indifferent too, but the fans genuinely want to love her. She is the best person at shooting herself in the foot ever.
I'll tell you what, man, Ronda, she has the mentality of a champion though. Like where like she puts the chip on her shoulder herself, right? Like she has so much, like, I don't know, pin up anger, or like she doesn't have a hard time going to that dark place, right? And like that's why she's such a competitor, right? And it's great for the competitiveness, but like she's not competing anymore. And at some point, we'd just like to see her, go meditate, take a DMT trip, or fucking like, you know what I mean? Like do a yoga retreat or something, and like, just relax. Like people don't hate you. Like I've said this before, like we want to love her so bad. Like I think all the fans, I mean, I'm kind of indifferent. I think, the most MMA people and media and stuff like kind of indifferent, right? But I think the fans, like, they want to love her, and she is the best person at shooting herself in the foot that ever. I'm sure we'll be addressing her comments on Rogan too. And look, I actually get where she's coming from with Rogan, right? Because like he's not a fighter, neither's John Anik, and so I actually kind of get that part. I don't know why she was hating on Joe Rogan though. And Joe Rogan is extremely knowledgeable. The fact that he never stepped foot in the cage, that doesn't make him unknowledgeable. Now, I do believe it is less knowledgeable than someone who has. But that's, I don't know. It's so strange to me. Like, that's not the guy to call out. Like, he only has an opinion, right? Until you've done something, like all of your beliefs are opinions, right? Like until you've actually done it, right? You can't say it's a fact until you've actually done it. So I get the point where she's coming from, but there, again, it's like, for one, you're attacking Joe Rogan, which is just the last dude that you want as your enemy, which I mean, I don't think he doesn't give a fuck, I'm sure, but like you don't want like to turn his crowd away, like the biggest crowd in America, and to disrespect him, it doesn't make sense either, right?
At her peak, Rousey was one of the two biggest superstars in the UFC alongside Conor McGregor, and her popularity was almost immeasurable when it came to mainstream exposure. But that level of attention also backfired after Rousey suffered a brutal knockout loss to Holly Holm in 2015, and she never addressed the fight while effectively disappearing for the next year. When she finally came back in 2016, Rousey got knocked out again by Amanda Nunes, and that was her last appearance in the octagon. Brown can't help but wonder if Rousey never actually processed those setbacks, and nearly a decade later, she's still dealing with the internal conflict that came along with the way her career ended. It seems like psychologically she's still caught up in that moment when she was fighting, thinking, "It's fucking bullshit, I should have won." Brown can sympathize with that feeling because he can go back to some of his own fights and think he did the stupidest thing or shouldn't have taken certain fights when he was sick or had broken ribs. You get hate after fights and people say you suck. That's a fact. But at some point, you have to move on and let it go, which Rousey clearly hasn't done yet. Make sure you smash that subscribe button and hit notifications so you never miss UFC drama, fighter beef, and breaking MMA news. Dana White has broken his silence following the UFC Vegas 110 fight-fixing scandal, and his comments suggest things are very serious. This past Saturday, featherweight prospects Isaac Delgarian and Yadir Del Valle clashed on the main card in a fight that resulted in massive controversy. Delgarian opened up as quite a moderate favorite on the betting lines. However, just a few hours before the fight, the odds crashed after large money was placed on Del Valle to win in round 1, which is exactly what happened. Not long after cutting the Midwest Choppa from the promotion, the UFC released a statement vowing to conduct a thorough review of the facts surrounding the fight. Now, just a few days removed from the event, more details continue to surface, and Dana White has broken his silence on the situation. Speaking to TMZ Sports, White revealed that probably about 1 o'clock that day, they were working with a company called IC360, the best bet monitoring company in the business, and they reached out to the UFC telling them there was some unusual action going on with that fight. White said they immediately called the fighter and his lawyer asking what's going on, if he's injured, if he owes anyone money, or if anyone approached him to throw the fight. The kid said no, absolutely not. He's gonna kill this guy. So they said okay and let the fight play out. When it ended with a first-round finish via rear naked choke exactly as the suspicious bets predicted, literally the first thing the UFC did was call the FBI. White emphasized that he's met with the FBI twice that day alone. The director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, Kash Patel, has been in attendance at several UFC events this year and seemingly has a good relationship with White and company. Dana made it crystal clear, "If you try to do this, we will be your worst enemy. They will immediately go after you guns blazing with the FBI and whoever else they need, and they will do everything they can to make you go to prison."
We're with a company called IC360, and they are the best bet monitoring company in the business. They reached out to us and they told us that there was some unusual action going on with that fight. Do we know anything? We didn't. So what we did was we called the fighter and his lawyer and said, "What's going on? There's some weird action going on in your bet, weird betting action going on in your fight. Are you injured? Do you owe anybody money? Has anybody approached you to..." And the kid said, "No, absolutely not. I'm going to kill this guy." And so we said, okay. The fight plays out, and first round finish by rear naked choke. Literally, the first thing we did was call the FBI. So we called the FBI. I've met with the FBI twice today. People out there talking, "Oh, there's hundreds of fights under it." It's total bullshit. So this company, IC360, which is the best bet monitoring company in the business, we've been with them for years. And we get a report after every single fight that we do. So for anybody out there that's clickbait and saying, "Oh, there's hundreds of fights," it's all bullshit. So when this did happen, a couple years ago, whenever it was, that investigation is still ongoing, and now will be a part of this investigation too.
Directly talking to Kash Patel, I'm sure you do have a relationship.
Yeah, I talked to him this morning. But then we just had an office full of FBI agents in here. So if you try to do this, I've been very vocal and very open about this. We will be your worst enemy. We will immediately go after you, guns a-blazing, with the FBI and whoever else we need to get. And we will do everything we can to make sure you go to prison. You're seeing things out on the internet where like fighters are coming out and going, "Oh, I was approached. Really? Why didn't you tell us that? Or more importantly, why didn't you tell law enforcement that you were approached? Now you're saying that you were approached? It's like if somebody comes up and says, "Hey, I want you to rob a bank. I'm going to rob banks. Want to rob a bank with me?" And you don't do it. What, you're not gonna tell law enforcement? They're gonna be approached now by the FBI.
White added ominously, "It doesn't look good," regarding the investigation. This is absolutely massive news that shows the UFC is taking this extremely seriously, and if fight fixing is proven, someone could be facing serious federal charges. Islam Makhachev just revealed he estimates he was only at 60 to 70% on fight night after the brutal lightweight weight cut, which is absolutely insane considering how dominant he's been. In the main event of UFC 322 on November 15th at Madison Square Garden, Makhachev fights champion Jack Della Maddalena with the 170-pound title on the line. After a successful title defense against Renato Moicano in January, Islam made the decision to move up from 155 pounds. Speaking to ESPN about the changes he's had to make, Makhachev explained that no one who cuts like 10 kilograms or more than 10 kilograms ever recovers 100%. He still felt he recovered for fights at maybe 70 or 60% because it's so hard to recover in 30 hours. Now, he's very excited to see how he's going to feel in the cage at welterweight. If Makhachev was diminished at lightweight, it was impossible to tell based on his performances after losing in his UFC debut to Adriano Martins back in October 2015. Islam has rattled off 15 straight victories, including 5 straight wins in lightweight title fights. His pro record stands at 27-1. It's in the later rounds against Della Maddalena that Makhachev expects his physical change to pay the biggest dividends. He wants to see what happens after the second round, after the third round in those championship rounds, because he already feels the difference in camp with his recovery and how he feels after the third round. As always, Makhachev will have UFC legend Khabib Nurmagomedov in his corner, and if everything goes according to plan, Islam will take Della Maddalena down, make him tired, and finish him on the ground with a choke or armbar. A new report from Variety states that the historic event could happen sooner than expected. For what it's worth, UFC officials including Dana White have repeatedly said planning won't begin until early 2026, so anything seems possible based on logistics and timing. White has promised to deliver one of the biggest UFC events of all time, with almost every high-profile fighter on the roster asking for a spot at the White House card. The historic event, which likely ends up broadcast on CBS, won't feature a massive crowd with White expecting under 5,000 people in attendance. So who might be sitting octagon side for this event? In addition to Trump and White, it appears there could be some serious VIPs from around the globe all vying for a spot. According to Variety, dignitaries from around the world will attend a dinner and then head to the octagon where the main event will play out. The card could also end up playing host to world leaders as well as any number of power players with well-established ties to the president and the UFC. Names like Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg, who have frequently attended UFC events in the past, are almost certainly on the guest list. Prominent members of Trump's administration are also likely to make appearances, such as FBI Director Kash Patel and U.S. Secretary of Health and Human Services Robert Kennedy Jr. Judging by this latest update, there's still a lot of planning to be finalized before the UFC officially lands at the White House in 2026. This is getting absolutely heated between these two. Don't forget to smash that like button, drop your takes in the comments, and subscribe for all UFC and combat sports news. Is Rousey being a sore loser? Is the UFC Vegas fight fixed? Will the White House card be moved up? Will Islam dominate at welterweight? Let us know and we'll catch you in the next one.